San Diego, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Real Talk San Diego, brought to you by our loyal partners at 5 Star Escrow and First American Title. And my co-host this afternoon is Realtor Nadia Colucci with North Compass Realty. How's it going, girl?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here.
You're so pretty in pink today.
Well, thank you.
I love it. I don't know if you can see the shoes, but they are killing it.
Stop.
Bright pink.
Oh, fabulous.
She put together a fantastic show for us today. We're joined by 1031 exchange expert Stephen Decker. He's the vice president of IPX 1031. I like the wave. Hello. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And saving your loved ones from probate court is estate planning guru Michael McCarthy. All right, you're going to have to help me with this. Schluber?
Schlehuber. It's Schlehuber and McCarthy. Schlehuber was my deceased law partner.
I'm just gonna, write it down phonetically for myself here.
Yeah. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
What?
Schlehuber.
Huber.
Kind
Okay.
of like Uber.
Yeah.
That's an easy way to remember.
I'm gonna butcher that, so if I just go, you just say it, and I'll say that.
Schlehuber.
And McCarthy.
Schlehuber.
Yeah, the Anne McCarthy part. We can help with that
I
part.
got that. So Nadia, let's talk to you a little bit because this is your show. You're the new host. So what's going on in your world of real estate right now?
It's been great. It's honestly, we've been blessed, very busy, as I'm sure a lot of people are right now. It's going nuts. We have low inventory still, low interest rates, so that just keeps the market burning and turning, which is awesome. So if things are priced right, super competitive. If it's priced right, it'll sell. There's enough buyers out there. Again, the rates are super low, so a lot of people are able to afford maybe what they couldn't before. Prices are going up still, so I'm just sensing though recently sellers may have gone a little greedy, so I'm noticing some things sit on the market a little bit longer. So it's a good opportunity because it evens the field for everybody.
Yeah, surely.
Like. Yeah.
So talk about yourself a little bit. What can somebody expect when they work with you?
Awesomeness.
No.
Yeah. So I'm a native here to this beautiful city, and I work
Can
all
I
up
poke
in.
you like you're real?
Yeah,
You're
there's
a
3 of
native?
us left.
What?
Yeah. One of them's right here, actually. I think.
Another native?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, we work really hard. I have a partner, Ann and I, and we're at North Compass Realty. We are a boutique, kind of corporate / boutique mentality where the service is top notch, and that's usually our first priority. So work ethic is super strong for both of us, and some primo negotiating skills to go with it.
Yeah, and it sounds like kind of the best of both worlds. So you have like the corporate, the structures in place, but you also have the boutique, like homey, really intimate feel as well.
Yeah, because you kind of want to offer that. I mean, corporate's a little robotic after a while. So every buyer's different, every seller's different, every home is different. So you have to be able to change and adjust. And after 17 years in the business, I think I do that pretty well.
You got it.
Yeah.
So any advice for buyers or sellers right now? Because it is overwhelming.
It is, yeah. Buyers, I would say be prepared. So have all your ducks in a row, have the pre-qual. You can even actually go through underwriting sometimes, so you can make an offer at 19-day close because it's just underwriting. It's already approved, your DU's done. That would be great, and I think that makes it more competitive. Also be patient, because most of the time you're going to lose quite a few properties up front, and that's okay. Just know that that's part of the game right now. And I think, again, having the pre-qual in order, there might always be someone with more cash down or cash offers altogether, better terms. So the way to button up your terms is sit with your lender and your agent and go through what you could do to make that offer the best offer.
Got it. And so you mentioned, you're probably going to get turned down. How early do you think or would you advise that people start looking?
Like when are they in a lease, for example? I get a lot of that. First-time home buyers are like moving out and they want to time it, and I would say a couple months. So first step first, always your pre-qual and have that done. Fully vetted and approved. I keep saying pre-qual, it should be pre-approval. I think that would be the first and most important step. If you're all cash, great, that's a little easier. Proof of funds in place, and then you're ready to write.
Don't wait.
Don't wait. I mean, there's really no reason to, unless you have some personal reason you need to wait, but we can talk about 1031 exchanges and things like that. If you have to wait and shop by a certain date, then I usually say about two months in advance.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know. I'm trying to get rid of my stupid rental, so
Well, give me a call.
And so how do people reach you? How do I give you a call?
You can call me on my cell, always on, 760-214-1802. And you can reach me on my website, nadia@callnadia.com. That's my email, rather. And then North Compass Realty is our website.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that little real estate update, Nadia.
Of course.
So are you ready to get to know our guests a little better?
I am so excited.
We're going to play a little game with you.
Let's do it.
Okay, so
Were you aware of this?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's how we like to keep it.
Surprise.
First of all, happy birthday, Michael.
Thank you.
Yay.
Okay.
Before we jump into torturing you with these questions, what are you doing for your birthday today?
I am actually going to feast at Mission San Luis Rey. It's an oceanside event that has oceanside restaurants, brewers. They've got some tequila companies and bourbon places.
What?
And it's super fun, and it might be too late to get a ticket, but it's behind the gates at Mission San Luis Rey, so it's in a place the public doesn't usually get to go.
Okay.
It's beautiful, fantastic food, great drink.
You can get tickets at the door.
Oh, that's right. I think it's a
you
little
can,
bit
so-
more.
Yeah. Well.
than-
Fun.
I'm
It
cheap.
would have been funny. I'm cheap. It would have been funny if you were like, I'm gonna feast. Because when you first said it, I'm like,
You're like, yeah,
I'm gonna
just-
feast. And I was like, oh, I got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's like,
bar-
I didn't have
barbaric,
burger.
you know.
Like, go, Michael, go.
Yeah. Get a
Get
steak.
your feast on.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna just fire some questions at you. One word answers. You tell me what comes to mind. Okay.
Filter on.
Horrifying.
Filter on. Good idea.
What is your spirit animal?
Oh, a dog.
You have to tell me why.
I just love dogs. Dogs are great.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Coors Light.
Current show you're binging.
It's Father Tom or Father something. It's some British crime series
On
where they
KPBS?
no
Oh.
on Netflix.
Oh.
It's totally silly, but I just get into it.
What genre is it?
It's like Murder She Wrote for men.
Perfect.
Do you know what Murder She Wrote
I
is?
do,
No,
actually.
yeah.
Angela
My-
Lansbury.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Barely, but I do.
Barely, but
I
you
do
know.
know
Yeah.
what it is. Who's your favorite band or musician?
I don't know.
I remember you told me the other day Mumford and Sons you liked. I thought.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember you said that.
Yeah.
Which is a great band. By
You
the way.
can phone a friend. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, whatever's on the radio, I don't know.
What's one thing you can't live without?
I was going to say Coors Light, but I shouldn't.
It is your guilty pleasure.
Yes, a lot of sleep.
Amen. I'm the same way. What's your zodiac sign? Since today's your
I
birthday.
am a Leo.
That's right. We got the Leo power. What's one word to describe yourself?
Happy.
And if you could have any other career, like snap your fingers, you're doing it tomorrow, what would it be and why?
I wouldn't switch, but I love what I do. But I think that these, the journalists that go around and they get to meet like leaders of state and talk about politics and things like that, I think that would be fascinating. I think it would also be like super exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
probably get beat down in that industry.
Yeah.
I
you
could
know?
Yeah.
totally see him as an Anderson
Yeah.
Cooper.
Yeah.
yeah. Go
I
what?
do.
Go go.
Andy Cooper.
Go blonde.
Yeah. You're white.
Yeah, it would be great. But I honestly, I've been an estate planning attorney now for 14 years, and I love it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's the best answer yet. Nadia, you want to fire at Steve?
Oh, jeez.
You ready?
No, not really.
Come on. Well, now.
Is it going to
you
be the
know
same
them all.
questions?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You
They're
have
all
practice
new.
round.
They're all
Oh, good.
new.
Don't say Coors Light.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Probably Jameson.
There.
Yeah, okay.
We all need a little bit of alcohol.
That's right.
So,
What about your spirit animal?
I really don't know. I would probably say maybe a tiger.
Makes sense.
Oh,
I can
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm red. You know.
And then what about a current show you're binge watching right now?
Oh, geez. I love Stranger Things. That's one that I can't wait for the next season to come out on. So that's one that I've been rewatching actually. So
Okay. And then one thing you can't live without?
probably my fiance.
Oh, that's
Brownie points.
Just,
That's a
just
good
got engaged.
answer.
If you're watching,
Oh, you did. Congratulations.
Right
Good
answer.
job.
Yeah.
Congrats.
And your zodiac sign?
I'm an Aries.
Oh, that's good. So what is
Yeah.
that? April?
March.
March.
Mar-
Okay.
March,
March,
to
April.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one word to describe yourself.
Probably eclectic.
I like that.
I like
That's
that. That's a
nice.
unique answer.
I know. Okay. And then if you could have any other career, what would it be?
I'd
and
be
why?
a professional soccer player.
Oh, nice.
Soccer's my passion. I love
Okay.
love soccer. Travel the world watching football matches around the world. So I'd love to be a soccer player.
Who's your favorite
in
team?
Germany? Bayern Munich. That's my favorite club team.
Okay.
Did you grow up playing?
Grew up playing since I was 5 years old. Played in college. Loved it.
Awesome.
Still play.
Isn't USA playing Jamaica today?
USA is playing today.
Like
That's
right
where I'll
now
be
or
at
in a couple
6:30.
hours? Yeah, I was gonna
Yep.
say.
I'll be at the
We
bar
know
watching.
Where you'll be. Yeah.
So you're a native San Diegan. Where are you from?
Born and raised in Los Angeles.
Oh,
Born and
okay.
raised in LA. So
Nice.
unfortunately, I'm a
We'll take
Dodgers
you.
fan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we won't
oh,
hold
yeah.
it against
He says
you.
unfortunately. He
Unfortunately.
knows better.
He knows.
We're in first place. It's okay.
Well, thanks for being good sports and
Thanks.
letting us get to know you a little bit better. Guys, if you like what you see, be sure to click follow on our feed so you can be notified each and every time we go live. And of course, if you have any comments or questions for us, show us some love and we will give you a shout out on air. So that's the beauty of Facebook Live. We're going to jump right in with Stephen Decker. He is the Vice President of IPX 1031. Stephen has 13 years of expertise in the 1031 exchange industry, which has come in the form of structuring, coordinating, and procuring all types of exchanges, including delayed, simultaneous, reverse, built to suit, and personal property. Stephen also often speaks and writes on different topics related to real estate, tax, estate planning, and personal property, as well as teaches continuing legal education and continual professional education to attorneys and CPAs. So, I mean, it's not like you're really that busy. Stephen, so let's start off by defining what the heck is a 1031 exchange in the first place.
That's the number one question that people ask me. What the hell do you actually do?
Yeah.
So 1031 is actually, it's a section of the IRS tax code that allows investors that are selling typically investment real estate, since we're talking about real estate predominantly. If you sell a piece of investment real estate and you cash out, ordinarily you would pay a number of taxes to both the federal government and the state. Basically, the government allows you under Section 1031 of the tax code to defer paying all of those taxes as long as you meet a certain set of criteria that the IRS meets out. So you have to sell investment property and buy investment property. If you want to defer all of your taxes, you have to buy property that's of equal or greater value. And assuming you meet all of the requirements that the IRS has, they allow you to completely defer those taxes. Probably the easiest way that I could explain a 1031 exchange, like in a nutshell, would be take out a $1 bill, I hand it to you, and you hand me 4 quarters. All I did there was I changed the look and the feel of my investment. I still have $1. I didn't put any of the money in my pocket. If I did, I pay taxes on it. All I did there was just change the look and the feel of what I have.
That's a great way to explain it.
Yeah, and when we were on the phone, this really resonated with me because I was like, where did this start? Like, how did this, and you gave the best example with the farmers. So can you tell us that story?
So historically, exchanges have actually been on the books in one form or another for almost 100 years now. They came out in the first form in 1921. They were historically utilized by farmers. You know, I was a corn farmer, you were a beet farmer, you were sick of beets and I was sick of corn. And we would do a straight swapping of properties. And because neither one of us cashed out, the government allowed us not to have to pay those taxes at that time. So they were predominantly utilized by farmers. Yeah.
Cool. Now, is this something that an individual can do on their own, or do they need to hire someone like such as yourself to do this for them?
So you do have to have what's called a qualified intermediary. So anytime you do a 1031 exchange, you have to have a neutral third party that we prepare documentation both for the property that you sell and for all of the properties that you purchase. And we also have to hold your client's money in between the time you sell property A and go out and buy property B. So no one that's been a direct agent of you within the last 2 years is qualified to be your 1031 exchange accommodator.
Interesting.
That was it. So I remember it being called an accommodator. So so that's the same
accommodator,
thing.
Qualified intermediary, exchange company, they're all synonyms for the same
You're
thing.
kind of like escrow for real estate, right?
Similar. We're in addition to escrow, so
Okay.
you would still ordinarily open escrow with whomever you typically use, and we become involved in the transaction once you've actually opened escrow on the property that you're selling.
So that's an important thing to know, and that's the perfect segue.
Yeah.
Let's kind of go through the process because
Sure.
you can't wait till escrow closes. It's
No.
all based on timing, so kind of walk us through that.
You'd be shocked at how many people call me up and they say, "Hey Steve, I closed
just
on my
closed,
property
yeah."
2 days ago, but my money's still sitting in escrow. Can I still do a 1031 exchange?" Unfortunately, the answer is no. You do have to have your exchange set up with a company like ours prior to the close. So typically, we become involved in the transaction anytime between the time you open escrow and the time that you close. We do have people that call us on the day of their closing to set up their exchange. I don't like those people very much, but we can still do it. We can still handle the transaction. So yeah, we like to get involved on the front end of things. And even prior to you being in escrow, we sit down and talk with clients, strategize, and see if exchanges are even a good fit. Because oftentimes clients have, they have carryover losses that they can use to offset some of the gains, so they may not even need to do an exchange.
Interesting.
So,
yeah. And then you have a certain amount of time to find a property, right?
Yeah, two major time periods that you have to stick to, and contrary to most of our investors' beliefs, these are not flexible time periods. And these time periods have been in place since the mid-1980s. A lot of times, probably the number one thing that my clients like to yell at me about is what's called the 45-day identification window. So from the time you close the property that you sell, you only have 45 days to identify what you want to purchase, and you have 180 days to actually close it. So the number one thing that my clients yell at me about is that 45-day window. They think that Steve Decker is the one that's only giving them
you're the
Why
one.
you gotta make
45.
these
I know,
rules,
exactly.
Steve?
I know. And then I tell them, this has been the same since 1984. I was 3 years old when the IRS put this in place. I had nothing to do with it. But those are the 2 time periods that you have to stick to. And unfortunately, the only time there is an extension to those time periods is in the case of military deployment or in the case of a federally declared disaster.
Okay.
Something like an earthquake, fire,
Sure.
floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, acts of terrorism, et cetera.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Isn't there a max on how many properties you can identify in that 45, depending?
Sort of.
Okay.
So there are 3 different rules under which you can identify property, and you have to choose which rule you're going to go with.
Okay.
Most of our clients will use what's called the 3 property rule. So if you're just going to sell one property and buy one property, you're probably going to use that 3 property rule.
Okay.
Under that rule, you identify your top 3 choices, plan A, plan B, and plan C. And then but there's no limit to the value of those properties. So for example, if I sell something for $1 million, I can identify one property that's $1 million, one that's 1.5, and one that's $20 million. And as long as I can close on at least one of those 3 properties, I'll have a successful exchange. For our clients that like to diversify their real estate portfolios, a lot of our commercial clients in particular, they'll sell a property that's $50 million and they'll want to go out and buy, 5 or 10 smaller properties. In that case, you can use what's called the 200% rule. Under that one, you take the sales price of your property, in this case $50 million, you multiply it times 2, you can identify up to $100 million worth of real estate. So however many properties will fit under there, if you want to identify 100 properties that are $1 million each, go for it.
So it doesn't have to be 1-to-1.
Doesn't have to be 1-to-1. One of the major reasons why people do exchanges is to diversify the real estate portfolio. You can sell one and go out and buy 2 or 3, or you could actually do the opposite. You could consolidate your real estate portfolio. You could sell off, 2 or 3 properties, combine the money, and put it into one larger asset if you'd like to.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
How does having someone like him in your court just make your life easier for your
A
clients,
heck of
right?
a lot easier, for sure. And we've actually done a few this year,
Yeah.
and we had a family, so 3 separate families come, they owned a property together, a multi-unit, and they each sold, and then they each took their share and went and diversified. So
That's
one
great.
family bought 3, one bought 2, and one reinvested in a tick, for example. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of options. I think it's
That's
great.
awesome.
It can get confusing, so I say the sooner you call them, it helps. I think it guides the clients along a little bit better and sets them up, and everyone feels a little bit more comfortable.
Then you're not scrambling last minute oh shoot,
Yeah.
And some people
You'd
don't
be
even
shocked.
want to sell until they've appointed property too. I find
Well,
that a lot,
right.
just for security. I feel we'll find it depending what you want, and if it's realistic, we can find it. But
Sure.
I'll take those 180 days sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well,
So we actually have a live comment, but I can't read it from here. I don't know if you can read it, but if not, I
We
know
would
Bex
like
will
to
read it.
know what is the
That's
function
dangerous.
of, what is that?
Oh, Forever will. Oh, that must be someone
Is that a
from.
Michael
yeah, it
question?
might be a Michael question. So maybe we'll get to that one here
Okay,
in a sec.
we'll
I don't
hold
even know
off
what
on
that
that
is.
then.
Well, good thing you're here.
You
Well,
know what it
Hopefully
is,
you
right?
do.
Yeah. Well, I hope you know what it is.
He's like, no, I'm just kidding.
That's the beauty
I've
of
heard
live.
of them. Yeah.
So, Stephen, how did you get into 1031 exchanges?
I got duped into it. I had a family
Who played
friend.
you?
Yeah.
Actually, one of my best friend growing up, his father owned a 1031 exchange company. During the summers in college, I would do internships at his exchange company. And a few months before I graduated college, they called me up and said, "Hey, do you want a full-time gig once you graduate?" And I said, "Of course. Who doesn't want
Yeah.
$35,000 right out of college?"
God,
you know?
yes.
You got to take
So
it.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
jumped right on it, and I've been doing this ever since. What was kind of funny is the first summer after my first internship, I was saying my goodbyes to everybody in the office on my last day, and this one lady, I walk into her office, and she says, "Come here, I want to talk to you." And she gets in my face and she says, "I don't ever want to see you again." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "Well, did I do something? Did I do something to offend you?
right.
Did I say something
Yeah.
wrong?" She said, "Look at me. I was in your position 20 years ago. Do I look happy?"
Oh,
I was a family friend too.
She was trying to help you out, but you seem
She was
nice
trying-
and happy.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love my job. I mean, it's very unique. You never know who you're going to be talking to. The next phone call could be, mom and pop that own one condo in the middle of nowhere, or some commercial real estate investor that's selling a $500 million deal.
Yeah,
So
Wow.
crazy.
it's a total unique section of the real estate community. So
Yeah.
And
it's
you're
a lot of
not
fun.
limited to just San Diego then, right?
No, I mean I can handle deals anywhere in the country. When you do a 1031, you can buy and sell anywhere within the United States and even some U.S. territories. So a lot of my clients are in fact out of state. And just to be frank with you, the tax rates here in California are so high right now that a lot of our investors are starting to leave. They're starting to sell California properties and going and buying in Texas and Florida and Washington.
12 times the number too, right?
yeah.
For the same price. I mean,
yeah, exactly. So.
So last thing before
Sure.
we move on, tell us about IPX. What's great about IPX? What do you enjoy about working with them?
So, our company, we're actually owned by the largest provider of title insurance services in the entire world. What a lot of people don't realize when it comes to 1031 is that this industry is completely unregulated. So there is literally zero federal regulation of who can hold your money. And right now, we're holding a ton of clients' money. And if I told you that we had no bond or insurance policy, people would start to freak out.
Sure.
So being a part of the company that we're owned by, we have more financial strength and security than absolutely anyone in the business. So that lends itself to, especially the larger transactions. It makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. And they're big on employee ownership. So they're very big on moving up the corporate ladder, which is something I intend to do. So. I love it. Love my job.
Wonderful.
It's great.
Well, that's
Cool.
Stephen Decker. He's the Vice President of IPX 1031. You can find out more information at ipx1031.com. Is there a phone number or email address you'd like to give out?
Yeah, my cell phone number is the best number to reach me on. That number is area code 619-246-8187.
Hit us with that one more time, please.
619-246-8187.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to move on to Michael McCarthy. He is the estate planning attorney with
Schlehuber.
Ann McCarthy. Michael McCarthy was born in San Diego and raised in Carlsbad and is a certified public accountant and attorney practicing in North County, San Diego. Mike is grateful to be able to enjoy the perfect weather of North County, enjoys spending time with his family, participates as a member of the North County Rules Committee of the San Diego Superior Court, and that you no longer are, so we're just going to move on from that. So, from a consumer standpoint, I got you, Mike.
Yeah.
What should people know or understand about estate planning?
I think the key is that it's much less complex than it's presented to people. It's very straightforward. Anybody with more than $150,000 in assets or real property of any value really is in need, in California, is in need of an estate plan. And it's probate avoidance, it's tax planning, it's family, well, that sounds a little weird, family planning, but it's planning for the equitable distribution of your affairs. It's not as hard as it's presented. A lot of people try and cloud it with acronyms and credit shelter trust, marital deduction trust, disclaimer trust. It's all kind of the same idea, which is let's get you organized, let's have a vehicle to own your real property so that it's not subject to probate administration, which you've seen, Nadia, is very expensive, it's very time consuming, and there's a much simpler option, which is just a good solid estate plan.
So let's kind of squash the myth, if you will. How long does it typically do you spend with a client to put together an estate plan?
In our office, it's usually we have some telephone calls, kind of getting to know each other, scheduling, sharing what information needs to be collected, and then we have an in-office consultation that's usually like an hour, hour and a half, and we kind of go through family dynamics, what the objectives are, what the asset levels are, what kind of trust would be appropriate for that client, and then it usually takes me a week to turn around a completed estate plan, and then that's another hour and a half in the office. It's not a huge commitment of time. I think one of the things that trip people up the most is they have to make decisions as to who's going to be in charge, and sometimes difficult decisions of who will be guardian of their minor child, which takes some thinking.
And people don't really want to be forced with thinking, the unfortunate and
Right.
inevitable.
Right.
One thing we can't really avoid, but I think, like you said, if you have enough assets, it's smart to get in front of that and make sure that all those assets that you work so hard to have are actually maintained well and go to who you want
Right.
them to go to. Because as you mentioned, probate can be
A bear. It's a total bear.
that
Yeah.
was another
bear,
B word
yes.
I was
Yeah.
thinking of. But it can be that too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe tell us why a little bit. Why does
Well,
why
and probate is a part of the Superior Court of San Diego. It's distinct. It has its own rules. And it's meant to make sure that assets of a decedent go to their heirs or beneficiaries. We have great judges. The problem is that they have too many cases. And so probate can take 18 months from start to finish. If you've got real property involved, you need to get a probate appraiser on it. There's prescriptions as to how and when you can sell. Sometimes you need court approval. And it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Just to get a $500,000 house, and that's gross, not net. I mean, you could have a $480,000 mortgage. Just to get that out of probate with statutory fees for the representative and the attorney, that's 26 grand. And a $500,000 house in our
Just like
market
that.
is you know, it's not a huge estate.
Right.
So, and that's even without all the filing fees, publication, notice, statutory waiting periods. It's all doable, and it's meant to protect the beneficiaries or the heirs, but it's a hassle, and it's public.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, it's public.
So tell us how we avoid a probate. What are the
Oops,
easy
I'm sorry.
steps and just
The trick with a probate is unowned assets. So if you have 150 grand that nobody owns anymore because the owner is deceased, or you have real property that nobody owns anymore because the owners are deceased, that's when probate kicks in.
Right.
The trick with the trust is the trust owns the real property and the trust owns the assets. So when you pass away, though you're gone, your assets aren't unowned. They're still owned by your family trust.
Right.
And if they're still owned, there's no probate jurisdiction.
Right.
So,
So basically, get a will, trust, all of that, and
Yeah.
then you alleviate, or at least you alleviate the concern and the worry and the pain for your family, your heirs, to go
Right.
through probate court.
yeah, and the time and the expense
Yeah.
and all that.
Because like you said, if you sell something for $5 and you have a mortgage against it for $480, that 20, but it costs
already-
26
yeah,
to go through the
you've already
thing
blown
process.
it. Yeah. And the thing is that I think a lot of people look at estate planning as something that's, you know, for the fancy, for the uber rich and all that kind of stuff. And it's not. It's just life planning.
Especially here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
with the-
Especially in California.
Yeah, and you know, in a when you're doing all that, you also want to have some personal planning things like a healthcare directive, a power of attorney for finances, and you know, estate planning is kind of, you want to do it and forget about it for a little while. It's like going to the dentist. You know you need to do it. It's usually not that bad once you actually go.
Right.
So long as you're not a yuck mouth, you know.
Yeah,
but
don't be a yuck mouth.
Yeah.
Gross.
And it's really something you need to do.
Understood. So
Easy.
let's get back to the live question.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that is.
What
What is
was
it?
that?
A
I can read it.
pullover something?
We would like to
Pour-over.
know what is the function of a pour-over will. A pour-over will, I don't want my clients to be in probate. I want to plan and have a trust in place. But sometimes there are instances where a probate's unavoidable. Like there's an asset that was entitled to the trust or something like that. So a pour-over will is a will that we enter into the probate court that says, hey, Judge, we have a trust. Our trust is going to do all the heavy lifting in the distribution to the heirs or beneficiaries. Take whatever asset that is in the probate court and just pour it over into the trust. Let the trust take care of it privately. It's a special type of will that you always want to have when you have a trust.
Oh,
Interesting.
I don't know that I knew that.
Well, and I remember
you
when we
do.
spoke, a lot of people think, oh, I have a will, so I'm good. But
Yeah.
that's really not enough. Why is that?
Well, there's a couple reasons why that's not the case. One is wills only have legal effect when you're dead. So we can't look to a will when you're alive and say, you know, something's happened to you. Who should be in charge?
Sure.
You know, who's empowered to help you? What you want to make sure you have, if you're going to go the will route, and sometimes for some people that's okay because they don't have the assets, have a healthcare directive. And that's the document that says, if I can't communicate, I legally empower someone else
Right.
to make medical decisions on my behalf. And then also a power of attorney for finances. And that's a document that says this person can access my money on my behalf when I'm incapacitated.
Right.
So how often should someone review their estate plan?
My rule of thumb is every 2 years. I get in touch with my clients if there's a change in the law, which doesn't really happen that much. And if it happens, it doesn't usually have an effect on your trust because if it's written well, it can accommodate changes in the law. But every 2 years, you know.
And you can appoint a trustee, but you appoint a few, right? Just in case
Yeah.
something happens to the one you appointed before anything happens to you, et cetera, right? Isn't
Yeah,
there
you
like
always want to have a couple people in line because we're planning right now, but we don't know what's going to happen in the future. I could name you, and you could move to Taiwan or something, and
with your money?
yeah.
That sounds great.
Nadia, how are you going to do Mike like that?
You can go
Okay, we're good
I
then.
know, yeah. Yeah, no, so you always want to have a couple, down, a couple in a row, just in case.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sandra, for that awesome question. Now I know what
Yeah.
a pour-over will is.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. We all
Right.
do.
Yeah,
And I think
know we
somebody
all do.
else mentioned something about it up there.
Mark Ignacio, I think, was also defining what it was. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mark.
that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Okay,
Such
so-
smart people out there today.
I want to know from each of you, what is your favorite thing to do or your go-to thing to do when you're not working? Who are you when you're not at work?
Love to travel. I mean, that's my number one.
Where's the coolest place you've traveled?
Coolest place I've traveled.
Favorite to date. It
Or
doesn't
where
have to
would-
be that cool.
Yeah, or where would
Yeah.
you want to go again,
Yeah,
too,
that's a good
right?
one.
Well, China was one of my favorite places that I've ever
Ooh,
been.
cool.
Wow.
Spent about a month in China. Had a great time there.
month?
We spent a month in China.
It's a long time.
Love Belize. Go down to Belize pretty often.
Nice.
That's
Okay.
one of my favorites.
Nice.
Kind of a local, or it's quick to get to, kind of like Cabo.
Yeah,
so
it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I feel like China and Belize are
Totally
like
different.
could not be more
Totally
different.
different. Totally different.
They're totally
I told you,
different, yeah.
eclectic.
Yeah.
Ah.
There you go.
That's true.
Understood.
Got it.
What about you, Mike?
I am a very boring guy. I talk so much at work. I love a nice, chill weekend. My backyard is probably my favorite place to be.
I love that.
Yeah, a little bit of a homebody, but I just love it. It's a great relaxation for me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I don't know about you, but I have to be so on all the time, and
Right.
so bubbly. I get
Yeah.
home, my boyfriend's like, "Why aren't you nice?" And I'm like, "I don't have any left for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I don't
it's
want to be
true.
nice."
It's true. You just
That's
want a little P
sadly
and
part
Q.
of it.
Yeah, so I totally get it. What do you like to do, Nadia?
I love to play volleyball any chance I
Nice.
can at the beach, and we
Awesome.
have this awesome weather pretty much year round. And if I'm not there and the weather, it's those 3 days that the weather sucks, I'm probably inside watching the reruns of Game of Thrones.
Oh, is that your guilty pleasure?
It's so my guilty pleasure. We're on episode 2, and it's fantastic.
Of the new season.
Of the new season.
So you're all caught up.
I'm all caught up. Yeah, and then
never
I
seen
like
it.
if
That was
I
a little
miss it for
gory.
any, I know it was a little gory, but if I miss it for whatever reason, I stay off all social media. I'm like I can't.
You will not ruin it.
No one. I'm like like
Yeah.
this all the time. So,
Totally.
no, it's a good one.
So, Michael, estate planning attorney with
Schlehuber.
Ann McCarthy. You can find them at mpmccarthylaw.com. Is there a phone number or email you want to give out?
Sure. lawofficemccarthy@gmail.com or 760-729-2327.
Hit us with that phone number one more time.
760-729-2327, and we're in the village of Carlsbad, and we actually have parking. So
That's a good.
And that's
point.
major.
Yeah.
That's clutch, yeah.
And so we've given our audience a lot of great information today, and I just want to come back to you, and I'll start with you, Steve. What is the takeaway? What do you want the listeners to remember from what you shared today?
I mean, it's always important to get these things started in advance. I mean, that's the number one thing that goes wrong with exchanges. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Reach out to us as much as you need to. This is a great opportunity to preserve and to build your wealth. I mean, it's really one of the great ways that people can still, defer all tax, roll it into the next bigger, better investment property. So that's probably the number one takeaway.
Perfect. Before I come to you, Michael, and happy birthday to Michael, says Sandra. So I don't know if you know who Sandra is, but shout out to Sandra.
Thanks, Sandra.
Yeah,
I know who
thanks for
she
the
is.
Oh, is this a surprise?
Say hello. Give her a little love.
Hello, Sandra.
Yeah.
You're like, thanks for embarrassing
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
Sandra.
Yeah.
Hi, Sandra.
We love you, Sandra. Thank
Yeah.
you. So, Michael, what is the takeaway? What would you like people to remember?
Just get it done. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Don't be scared by people using acronyms and things like that. I think one of the things that everyone should have is an explanation of what the documents are. It's not complex. It's just stuff that we need to do.
Knowledge is power. Just ask the questions, and
Right.
you won't feel so overwhelmed.
Right.
Well, and,
Absolutely.
and arm yourself with professionals that know what they're talking about, because
Amen.
you can't know everything, right?
Exactly.
So seek the correct help that you need and do your research. And obviously they have great reviews, and that's why they're here.
Yeah,
And
thanks
they're
for
good at what
bringing
they do.
them to
Of
us
course,
today.
yeah.
This is a great show.
Yeah.
So, one more time, that was Stephen Decker, Vice President of IPX 1031. You can find him at ipx1031.com. Michael McCarthy, Estate Planning Attorney at mpmccarthylaw.com. And this is Real Talk San Diego, coming to you live from Smarter San Diego Studios every Wednesday. We have a show for just about every San Diego community, so make sure you check out our pages to stay up to date on all things San Diego. I'm Claire McKee, and
Nadia Colucci with North Compass Realty. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone.
see you next
Yay.
time.
Bye.